scripture passage ends, may God grant us understanding as we seek to apply such a text to our lives. We, the people of the United States of America. Some of you are looking at me really excited. Some of you are like, I want to run for the door. I don't need more politics. It's Sunday morning. I left the news headlines at home for a reason. But bear with me, friends, because I wrestled with God this week. I didn't want to preach politically today. Heck, I watched it on the headlines all week long. To the point that I even on Wednesday was like, you know what, God, I'm rewriting this sermon. I don't like it at all. We're redoing the whole thing. And I got to a red light, and the car in front of me had a license plate that said, "We the people." And I said, oh, is that how you're going to talk to me? All right, we will go forward. So bear with me, friends, because as political as it is, I hope you leave with a sense of hope. Because this sermon is also rooted from a conversation I had with a friend in the Denver Presbyterian who said, how are you going to preach with this election year? How are you going to teach in such a politically divisive time? And I honestly was caught off guard. I said, oh, well, I hadn't really thought about that, if I'm being honest with you. But it is a duty and a responsibility that we care for the people right in front of us. I once had a friend say that the best types of sermons are ones that you can preach in a first world country. You can preach in Washington, D.C. as much as you can preach in a third world country. While I love the intentions of that truth, again, there's great responsibility. There's great responsibility for this corner of the world that we are in, for the people of the United States, for this election year. So it would be quite foolish to skip over the fact that while as spiritual as we are very much a part of this world. And I wrestle with getting political, mostly because sometimes I live in spiritual la-la land. Not to say that I'm like a high and holy person by any means. Trust me, I have a lot of flaws and faults. But I really do try and see my everyday life through my spiritual lens, through my spiritual self having this human experience. To the point that when headlines come out or things of this world happen or devastation, sometimes I'm caught off my rocker. And I have to check myself. My husband and I watch the news often together, and most of the time I'm like, oh my gosh, what's happening? I've got tears in my eyes, like why? And my husband, being the realist and historian he is, he's like, well, if you would pay attention to history, this pattern actually makes a lot of sense. He keeps me in check quite often. But today, we're going to get a little political. It might be a little uncomfortable, but I hope that when you leave today, you have a new sense of what this election year is about. Because this sermon series is a reminder that we are all hubs of hope in the world. We do such a good job at compartmentalizing our lives, right? Of saying, this is who I am at church, this is who I am at work, this is who I am in my neighborhood and in my community. We have different hats we have to wear throughout the week, right? And those are appropriate in different postures. But at our core, we are people of hope. At our core, we are Easter people. At our core, we are of the resurrected faith. And so we must carry this core value of hope, this hub of hope into every community which we get the opportunity to do so with. And what a perfect passage, this passage from 1 John. If we're talking about our hope in action, we turn to this passage and we see that our hope in action is rooted in love. The opening lines were those verses saying that Christ laid down his life for us so that we, in return, would lay down our lives for our siblings. We would extend arms to those in need. That we would allow love to propel us forward into action. And did you catch that verse that was about, it's not about word and speech, but it's about action and about love. So if we're talking about action, if we're talking about our hope in action, then we must not overlook the fact that it is an election year. And there's some actions that need to take place. One of those being, we must cast our votes. We must go to those voting booths. That is our right and our privilege. And we have the duty and responsibility to express that. But if at any time during the sermon you think I'm going to tell you which way to vote, you're going to be disappointed because I'm not going to tell you. Because truth be told, I couldn't care less how you vote. Some people are like, no, pastors need to preach about which way to vote because it's about being right versus wrong. No. Remember that first chapter of 1 John? About light and darkness? Not about good and evil or right versus wrong, but about knowing and unknowing. About the revelation of Christ, about the revelation of the resurrection. We are resurrection people. So we know there's hope. So how does that hope saturate our very being to the point that we act upon it even in our political affiliations? I'm looking across the congregation right now, and there's a wide variety of political affiliations. There's lots of different votes, but those come from human experiences. Have you ever asked a person why they vote the way that they do? The stories that come up, the traumas that surface, the experiences? Because there's a person with a lot of human experience behind those votes. And let's be honest, yes, vote, but your vote's not going to change the world. Because come January 2025, there will be a president that's elected. And some of us in here are going to be thrilled. Some of us in here are going to be upset. Some of us in here are going to be like, well, we're just on this ride together, right? But the changes that are going to take place don't come from that president. Because isn't it interesting that it's we the people, not I the president? It's not I the person. It's we the people. And as a church, it's we the people of faith. We the people of hope. I look at the presidential candidates and I say, none of them represent we the people well enough. Because we the people, we're the ones, the boots on the ground. We are the ones making changes in the world. We are the ones taking the action in our own hands and saying, I'm going to feed them. I'm going to give them shelter. I'm going to give them hope. It's a tough year. Watching the divisions, watching how people are. How are we as we the people? How are we doing? We the people are tired. We the people are irritable. We the people are depressed. We the people are isolated, anxious, addicted, exhausted. We the people are in survival mode simply because the headlines tell us we have to be in survival mode. But we're called children of God. We're called good. I'm going to tell you an interesting story. It was a few weeks after our son was born. We were in that newborn fog, living into a life of family of four. And I woke up one morning and I looked at my husband and I said, I got to get out of here. I got to go. He says, well, where are you going to go? What do you need? I said, I don't know, but I'm taking the car and I'm going. Good luck. Here are the kids. And so I got in the car, and as mom's cars typically do, it gravitated towards the Target parking lot. Justin knows this really well. He's laughing because I run into his wife at this Target. We don't have our husbands or our kids, and we're like, how are you? What are you here for? Nothing. just to walk the aisles aimlessly. Let Target tell me what I need. And as I'm pulling into the parking lot, I go to pull into my spot, and this person is walking their shopping cart and just leaves it right in the spot that I was going to. And I was kind of like, do they see me? Did they not see that? Oh, I'll find another parking spot. It's okay. Also, for you, those of you who don't know me, that's my biggest pet peeve. Return your carts. It's the least you can do. If you do one thing this week in the world, return your shopping cart. So then I go into Starbucks because, of course, Target does a great job. They're like sleepy moms need some caffeine to shop. So I get in line to order my caffeinated beverage, and I'm next in line, and the person in front of me finishes, and I was like, I got to check my app on my phone and make sure I have enough money or reload it. And all of maybe 20 seconds goes by, and the person behind me is like, ugh, and cuts me off and goes right in front. And I was kind of like, well, I've been out of the world for a few weeks. Am I in line? Do people see me? So I finally get my coffee and I start just walking around the store. I'm in the dish soap aisle of all places. There's a million different types of dish soap. And I'm just kind of staring, enjoying my coffee. Nobody's crying or yelling. This man comes up behind me and he goes, "Are you going to pick one?" And I was like, well, I don't know. I don't know which one I want. I don't know if I need dish soap. And he's like, well, then can you get out of the way? Yikes. I'm starting to think this was a terrible idea. So I'm rushing through Target, not looking for anything now. And I get to the checkout. And there's a conversation that's getting a little heated between the cashier and the person who's checking out. And the person checking out is getting louder. And I finally just hear, "I need to speak with your manager now." Those are never good words, right? But I'm in now. I'm invested to this line, so I'm like, I gotta stay. I'm also a little curious about what's happening. And the poor cashier just looks devastated. The manager comes in and plugs in some numbers, makes some magic happen, gives a look at the cashier as they walk away. And so I go up to the cashier after and I say, "Oh, how's your day going?" He's like, "It's my first day." So I leave the store, and the final cherry on top, there's a man standing at the exit. And the back of his shirt has these bold red letters on his black t-shirt. And of course, I'm like, what does that say? And it says, "I'm a meat-eating, gun-owning, Republican, anti-vaxxer. How else can I offend you today?" It's like, whoa. I mean, all those political affiliations, sure, but how can I offend you? Just on a mission to offend people. So I get home and my husband has the kids asleep. He's like, "How was it?" "It was terrible. I'm never leaving our house again. People are terrible." No, we're not. We're not terrible people. We read that God made us good. That God saw you and I, breathed life, passion, hobbies into each and every one of us. And as 1 John reads, we're beloved. We're not just human beings. We are beloved little children who've just had too much loud noises from the world telling us to point our fingers, telling us to offend other people, telling us to have our defenses up all of the time. That no wonder in this political election year, in this political climate, we feel divided. Because that's how the world wants us to feel. That's how they want us to get our attention. They want us to vote from a place of fear. They want to instill this fear in us. But you and I have a spirit of authority that we can say, yes, I'll vote. I will prayerfully check these boxes. I will submit my ballot, pray over our nation, and I'm going to go do something. I'm going to go volunteer my time. I'm going to go to the food bank. I'm going to go feed people. I'm going to go help somebody. I'm going to go sit with somebody. I'm going to listen to somebody. I am going to be hope to the most hopeless corners of this world. Because we, the people, we are people of faith. We are people of hope. And 50 years from now, these presidents will just be in a history book. But the changes of this world come through places like this. We, the people of grace, will keep moving the mission of God's hope, love, light, grace into this world because we are people of hope. Amen.